Okay, so I'm gonna read a book a week on average for the next year. 52 books. Now, some of them will be heavy tomes. Some of them will be slim volumes, but we'll crack on through. Now, I've got somewhat of a list of books I'd like to make my way through. Last year, I was reading like no one's business. And I read a lot of good stuff. And I read a lot of poo. But we're going to do a review here. This is the first one of the year. Of a book called A Decent Ride by Irvine Welsh. Now, I used to like Irvine Welsh back in the day. I enjoyed Train Spotting very much. And I thought it was a bit hit and miss. Because there were plenty of his books that I read that I didn't like. Marabou Stork Nightmares being one. Ecstasy. The Acid House. Not so keen on some of them books, but Filth. Glue. Oh, right. Ping pong. And I read up to until it did Porno. That was the last Irvine Welsh book I read. And I was very disappointed with it. For a start, I thought it was a backward step. To do a sequel to Train Spotting. I thought it should be a standalone novel. And I've read it and I was not happy with it at all. And that was the last Irvine Welsh book I read for many a year now. Recently, I've been reading some very heavy books. Very serious. Very mind-bending, mind-warping. And I needed something. I needed something light and fun. And I saw this in a charity shop. And I had a quick look through it. And like I said, I've not read Irvine Welsh for a while. And I thought, I shall get this. And I started to read it. And I thought, oh dear. Oh dearie me, this isn't good. And I put it down. I was nonplussed about it. But again, I was reading these thick, heavy, deep, philosophical books, and I was like, I need something light, and I kept, going back to this. And I found myself actually being quite taken by it. Now, Irvine Welsh, if you don't know, I didn't know, he's done about 15 books now. And, like I said, I didn't know what he'd done for a long time. And I was quite surprised to see how many books he's written since I last had a look. And I got reading this one. Now let me read you the blurb on the back. A rampaging force of nature is wreaking havoc on the streets of Edinburgh. But as top shagger, drug dealer, gonzo porn star and taxi driver Juice Terry Lawson finally met his match in Hurricane Ballbag. Fasten your seatbelts, this is one ride that could certainly get a little bumpy. Now, Juice Terry Lawson, well, we first came across this guy in the book Glue, which was one of my very faves. Now, one thing I always liked about Irvine Welsh was the sense of humour. His books were a right laugh. And I was thinking about this, after reading this book, what is it that's so funny about him? And it's not all the dick jokes. I mean, it might as well have been called Minge, this book, or Fanny. What it's all about. And it's a humorous book. You can't take it seriously. Something like 500 pages, you could say it's a bit bloated. It's a bit long-winded, for sure. And I've got to give it out of 5 stars. I've got to come up with a rating for it. But we'll wait for that. Now, what it is that I found funny so much about Irvine Welsh back in the past is that his characters do stupid shit. They get themselves in all kinds of bother. They do daft things. They are daft. Now, it's written in that Scottish vernacular. It's phonetic. You've got to be savvy with the Scottish lingo. I recently heard, I avoided reviews for it. I tend to do this. If I hear a book and someone recommends it, then I might give it a look, say. But I'll tend to stay away from the reviews. I don't like to know too much about the book. Because I want to be surprised. I don't want to know what's going to happen. So, spoilers, we'll come to them. But just to give you an initial idea, if Americans would have a hard time with this book. They wouldn't get the jokes. They wouldn't. The way he writes, they'd find it confusing. I'm sure it is. So I don't think Irvine Welsh is a writer that travels too well. You know, I'm sure he does, and his books are translated into all kinds of different languages. But, again, I think over here, you know, people like me, we've grown up around Scottish people. We know what they're like. I used to know a guy from Scotland, Sweaty Sock. They've all got nicknames. He used to go around with a knife tucked down his shoe. He'd glass people. He was a heavy drinker and a shag artist. He was like a dog with 2 dicks. And he'd go from one to the other, and he was a character. And Scottish people, they're like this. They very much are so. And Irvine Welsh, like I said, I found his books to be very funny. But I outgrew them, you could say. I even went as far as to think they're a bit beneath me, these. You know, we're talking about the likes of Iceberg Slim, Hubert Selby Jr. You know, these people who walk on the wild side a lot. They like to talk about dirty things. They like to be shocking, over the top. You know, the books are about low-down filth. And it gets a bit much. Now, this book's, it's hit and miss. Now, like I said, I heard some Americans reviewing it, and I found it funny that they didn't get it at all. And there was a panel discussion talking about the book, reviewing it. I heard this stuff after I read it. And they just couldn't get with it. And I could see why. It's a big, sprawling book. And you got Juice Terry Lawson, who basically just goes round driving his taxi and getting constant boners. He only has to look at a lass and he'll get a twinge in his undercrackers. And that does get a little bit much. Again, not exactly realistic, this book. And it's well over the top. It's a bit like Sid the Sexist, the novel. But you've got other characters in there. You've got Ginty and Jonty, the couple. Now, spoiler alerts. If you like the sound of this book, which is about just basically shagging and double-crossing and buffoonery, then if you might be up for a caper, go and have a read of this. But it's pretty alarming stuff, pretty disturbing, some of it. Sickening. Now, you're reading it, and John T. He's thick as shit, the guy. And the book's written from different perspectives. So sometimes it'll be Juice Terry Lawson talking about getting his end away. And the next chapter will be about John T. And it'll be about what he's been up to. Now, like I said, spoiler alert, so I'm going to have to talk about some of the shit that goes down. So he basically kills his missus. And then he shags his sister. His fat sister. And his mum's upstairs. She's like, what are you doing down there? When they're shagging on the city. And his mum's runt her fat. And she's so big she can't get out of bed. And he's banging his sister, he's banging away. And then he goes home and he's... Some of the things he gets up to, this guy. I mean, at one point he shags a dead body. He shags Ginty when she's dead. It's disgusting. Necrophilia. Now, I heard an interview with Irvine Welsh after reading the book, and he said that it was supposed to be a sad scene. You know, a sad part of the book. Because it's trying to pump life back into her. And now and again she'd, you know, a gust of air would come out of the mouth, the smell of death. She was all, I mean, goes into explicit detail about how cold she was. And he's pumping away and he's all sad. And the next thing you know he's getting buggered by her dad. And then he hooks up with Juice Terry Lawson, who's been told by the doctors that he can't shag anymore because he's got a heart condition. So he goes around in a right funk and starts to play golf and read more books, starts writing poetry and stuff, but he's miserable. And these two hang around with each other, thinking that they're half-brothers. But they're not. I mean, you find this out afterwards. And then they dig up a dead body just to check out how big the guy's dick was. And his eyeballs have been eaten out by maggots. And he's got maggots coming out the end of his cock. It's disturbing. It's filthy, but it's funny because it's so ludicrous. I'm reading it, I was like, it's a page-turner. Now it goes off the ball, and again, the ending, I won't give the ending away, but it wasn't to my liking. And there's another story in there about Ronnie from America, who's come over to Scotland to buy a really expensive bottle of whiskey, or 3. And he has Juice Terry Lawson driving him around. And there's all these other subplots. There's so many characters in there. There's so much going on. It's so dirty. It's so funny. But like I say, it's pure filth. And there's parts of the book that you can't believe what you're reading. And when you're reading the sections that, you know, about John T, you feel like you got your brains dribbling out your ears. It's so thick. If anyone looked over your shoulder when you were reading it, they'd think there was something wrong with you. Because it's written from his point of view, and he's soft as shit. And he doesn't know what he's doing. He ain't got a clue. And all he cares about is chicken McNuggets. And after 8 McFlurries. And Ginty, the last thing, he killed. Trying to stop her going out again because she was always on the packet. On the nose candy. She a prostitute without him knowing about it. Now, I've known ladies like this. They're on the game. But the fella doesn't know, the chap. But they're selling the bodies. I've known these types. And again, we're down there with the filth, with the lowlifes, with these guys. And I've known people like this. I've known people who go round chasing their dicks about, getting into all sorts of bother. And it's all they care about. It's getting their end away. And it's disgusting. And people with loads of money don't know what to do with it. And they're reckless and they're very silly. And you've got the Hurricane Bullback at the start of the book. It's a bit of a MacGuffin, really. The book's not about that, but it's during Hurricane Bullback that Jonty kills Ginty. So he always looks back at that, and not fondly, and he wants to bring her back. But he can't. So he's shagging his mammoth sister. And then ends up being a happy ending. He ends up being a porn star. Because he's thick. And Juice Terry Lawson, he finds out he can shag. That they got his medical records mixed up with somebody else. It's daft, it's stupid. But again, it's funny. And there's sick things in there. Disturbing things. I mean, after finishing the book, I've been having mad dreams lately anyway, but I had a dream that I was living with this Scottish family, and they were all backwards. They were all freaks. And they were living in a shack that was half submerged in a swamp. And they couldn't tune a guitar or anything, and they were all trying to have a sing-along, and it was useless. And I was with them. And like I say, if there's 5 thick people around and you're with them, then that's 6 thick people. And I woke up from this dream and I was like, dear gosh. Because lately I've been having mad dreams. Well, I'll make a video about some of the dreams I've been having. I had an absolute horrible nightmare, one of the worst I've ever had. After reading The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks. Now I'll do a review on that book down the road. But I thought I'd start the year with a review of a book that I've read recently, just finished, and you might like it. And if not, then hey ho, I've made a video and I've said my piece. And I shall be digging back into a bit more Irvine Welsh. Because, a bit of light relief. Doesn't sound like that, but after some of the heavy tomes that I've been reading, and the absolute, where is it? Got a copy of this. Let's have a look, say. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one where we'll do a review of this. William Gibson's Neuromancer dear gosh. I preferred this, let's put it that way. So, thank you for watching. God bless you. I shall catch you on the next one. And once we've got through these 52 books this year, I'll do a top 10 or a top 20. And we'll talk about the ones that I liked and maybe the ones that I didn't like so much. But if I start a book, I'm going to finish it. I'm not messing around. And like I said, I'll catch up with Irvine Welsh. I know he's got another book coming out later in the year. And I'm looking forward to reading a few more by him. Because what you see is what you get. And I've read some reviews after. And especially some of the broadsheets, some of the things that they say of how crap it is. And this is just one big long dick joke, which it's not. You know, I'm not going to say it's deep. It's thick. But it's certainly not awful. And sometimes you just got to let your hair down. A decent book, a decent write. And 3.5 stars out of 5. Not bad. Not bad at all. I enjoyed it. Not perfect by any means. I've read better. But Irvine Welsh is a one-off. And you either like it or you don't. And I'll be looking forward to rereading some of those old books. Like Train Spotting. Like Filth. I'll be rereading them again soon, I'm sure of it. And maybe even Glue. And I'll catch up on some of the ones that I missed. But we're gonna have to talk about this. Oh dear me. I'll catch you on the next one, guys. See you soon. Ta-ta.